All right, so hi everyone, it's Nina Collins, and I'm here today with Michelle Sanchez-Boyce, who I just met fairly recently through a mutual friend, and I'm very excited to get to know. So thank you, Michelle, for joining me.
Thank you so much, Nina, for having me.
So Michelle has a background, she's done a number of things in kind of marketing and music and interior design. And she's also just recently launched a kind of movement called 50ish the movement on Instagram, which is a platform where she wants to kind of celebrate women our age. And we're going to start doing some partnerships with each other where we profile some of the women she profiles and vice versa, just because I really like her sensibility. And I think we're both kind of after the same thing, which is kind of the idea of creating like a no judgment zone, safe space where women can really celebrate this part of our lives. And her mantra is it's not your mama's 50th, which 50-ish.
50-ish, yes.
It actually makes me want to ask about your mom. That was one of my questions.
Oh,
So,
really? Yeah,
yeah.
that's another segment.
Well, since we're just really getting to know each other anyway, tell me another. I read this cool thing about you because I looked up some of you do a lot of really great interior design work. And on some biography of you, it said that you grew up disadvantaged in New York City and that creativity was free, which I just liked the idea of. It said from creating custom wallpaper made of magazine tear sheets to reupholstering, things found objects and stuff. And so it made me curious about your childhood. What part of town did you grow up in?
I grew up in Brooklyn. I am the product of two teenage parents.
Wow.
My mom my mom had me when she was 15, and I think my dad was a year younger than her, or she was 16. It was 15 or 14 or 14 and 15. And so, yeah, so I grew up I actually was raised, I grew up with my parents because they were so young.
Yeah.
And because they were so young, they didn't have, what I can give my son, because I had my son at 40. So, my career, had taken off. My husband and I were, financially stable. So he has a whole different experience, but I didn't grow up that way. We grew up, I didn't know I was poor at the time, but I was. And I always say that when you do not have, you're forced to be super creative, right? And because of it, I was extremely resourceful. So I had my mom. She had a great eye for stuff. We always had, like, you would never tell that where we lived is where we lived, because once you entered her apartment, it was just beautiful. And yeah, so I think and then on top of that, I was just born with like this innate, really keen eye for, beautiful aesthetics.
Yeah.
And so I loved wallpaper. So I would take tear sheets, and I remember putting up on my wall, like I created like a whole entire wall, maybe like 8 feet by 8 feet, and it had I created my own wallpaper using magazine tear sheets. And I remember that in the middle there was this Calvin Klein ad that said, on the ad, it was like, no matter something about how I feel, it must not be a sin to feel the way I do, right? And it was like so sensual, and I think I was like 12, and I thought it was so sexy. So that was like in the middle of my wall, in the middle of my room. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have other siblings later on, or were you an only child?
Well, my mom had my brother, so we grew up with the same mom but separate fathers. And then my father had 5 kids, so he had so it was a whole bunch of us. But
kind of like me.
I grew up with my brother. Yeah.
Yeah, same with me. I have one brother who I grew up with, and then I had some steps and halves and stuff.
Yeah. And I didn't reconnect with them until 6 years ago when my father passed away. I reconnected with them, and I'm the oldest. So I was like, you know what, let's all be a family, because we are family. And because I had my son so much later in life and I couldn't have another child afterwards, I was excited to reconnect with my siblings because they all had children. So now he has this, extended family and cousins. And so one of my nephews that I have with me right now is one of my sister's sons.
Nice. That's right. So Michelle is in Cape May right now. She's on vacation. So she right now lives in Atlanta, was in New York, lives in Atlanta, but is on vacation right now, talking to us from Cape May.
Right.
So I love what you said about your mom and design, because of course good design sense is inheritable, right? It's a special skill. It's a talent. So have you always done design work in your work? Tell us a little bit about your career.
No, so I started my career in the music business. I started out as an assistant um, at a music label, working in the business and legal affairs department. And
Label.
I started out at Tommy Boy Records.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked at 6 different labels throughout my career. I started out at Tommy Boy, then I went to Blackground Records, working with Aaliyah and Tank and Tony Braxton. And then I went from there to Arista, where I worked with Anthony Hamilton and what else? Aretha Franklin, actually, Whitney Houston. And then I went to J Records and I worked with Jamie Foxx. Yeah. And then at my last stop was Motown. But during that time when I was in the entertainment industry, I always tell people that I took baby steps. I didn't take the elevator, and I started out as an assistant, and then became an executive doing marketing because I was super creative, and business and legal affairs was just my way in to the business. But then I ended up making a turn and working behind the cameras and behind behind. People don't realize that when you hear an album, there's so much that goes into producing that album, from the visuals you see at, when we used to be able to buy music at, to stores and stuff. Everything starts like a year and a half, before the album comes out.
Like a book, the whole shaping of how you're presenting it.
The whole shaping. So I was more of the nucleus of each project, making sure I would sit down with the artist, listen to the body of work, and then come up with a plan on how we're going to present this to the world, right?
Cool.
And yeah, but then on top of that, you have to make sure that once that plan is put together, that all the supporting departments, from video to radio to digital, that everyone is moving along within the vision, within the plan, within the vision, within budget, and within the timeline. So and I enjoyed it. So I'm a product manager by trade.
Got it.
Probably, yeah. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's a great segue for me doing interior decorating, because it's very, very similar. You still have to put creative concepts together. You still have to put together budgets, right? The only difference was the product. In the music business, the product was the artist, and in design is a space.
Yeah.
So because it takes a lot of product management, project management when it comes to designing, just like when putting out an album.
Yeah, it's very creative. So you're really a producer, a very creative producer.
Right.
It's a lot of different skills. Very, very cool. But I have all these questions swirling in my mind. So one thing is, I was thinking about the music business, watching Tracee Ellis Ross. I'm kind of obsessed with Tracee Ellis Ross.
Yeah, everyone is.
I mean, how great is she? Do you look at her Instagram every day?
I do. I look at her, and then my son is Blackish is his favorite show. So, we DVR it. And then when we can't watch it on the days it comes out, then we just binge watch it. Yeah. And so, yeah.
All right. So did you like the movie? I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I love her. It was pretty good. Sweet.
I didn't see the movie.
Okay. You got to watch the movie.
I haven't seen the movie yet, but now that I can probably do it this week when I have a little more free time. Yeah.
Because all movies are now just being released on your computer. It's very weird.
Right.
My other question that occurred to me is, I want to know if your mom is still alive, because I'm just interested in moms. And then I'm wondering if you sing yourself.
Do I sing?
Yeah. Can you sing?
Oh, not at all.
Me either.
Not at all. My mom is alive. She lives in Brooklyn. My whole family's still in Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn girl. I lived in Westchester County for about 20 years. I went to school in Westchester. And when I became an adult, a real adult, I knew that I was going to move back to Westchester County. But I lived in Brooklyn all my life, and then moved to Westchester, lived there for 20 years, but my family still lives in Brooklyn.
Nice. Okay. Because it must be fun having a mom that's like, you're how old? You're 49, 50?
No, I'll be 52.
You're 52. Okay. So your mom is
in October. So I'm 51 in like 3/4.
And I'll be 51 in like 3 weeks. So we're basically.
Wow. Okay.
But it must be cool having a mom who's in her late 60s.
I don't know about that. No, she's cool and she's hip and yeah, it is cool. I think that we look so similar, it's kind of scary because at one point, she was my mom and I was the kid, but now we look like two mature women, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And
Imagine.
sometimes I get offended when they're like, she's your mom? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I have so, my mom died 30 years ago, but I have so many moments now where I'll like I'll look at myself in like a window walking down the street or something, and I look so much like her, like my kind of just that middle-aged mom thing. It's weird. It's
Yeah,
definitely weird.
yeah. My
Um,
husband tells me that my attitude comes, when he says, when I get, pissed off at him, he said, oh, you remind me of your mom. I'm like, you don't even know her like that. Like, what do you mean? But he's so right. And it gets so defensive.
that is not totally what you want to hear, but he's probably completely right. So that makes me think about this whole 50-ish, the movement. Now I'm thinking, first of all, I want to feature your mom because I'm just interested. I love the perspectives of older women. I often think
Okay.
that I started the community. One thing I realized a few years into it was that I created the Wolfer community when I was 46, and my mom was 46 when she died.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I always kind of had my mom like ahead of me. And then
Mhm.
I think when I was in my 40s and starting to go through like perimenopause and getting older, I no longer had like a model in front of me, of what aging looked like and what being I don't know what it's like to be a mom of adult. Well, now I'm a mom of almost adult kids, but I didn't have that experience, right? So in some ways, I think I created the community to give myself that, to
Oh,
have
wow. That's beautiful. Mhm.
brothers and sisters. And so I really love the women in the community who are in there. We have a lot of women in their 60s, actually, and quite a few in their 70s. So, we
Okay.
go from like 40 to however old. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I just learned so much from them. And I think it's one of the things that's helped me feel better about being in this phase of my life and aging. So I want to hear about why you decided to start this platform.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank you for first and foremost, because this is actually my first public speaking regarding like the 50-ish platform. And so it's kind of, it's kind of, it feels good because look at God, right? You have a vision. I sit on ideas all day, but to have it just, plant a seed and watch it flourish it's so rewarding. So I want to thank you for believing in my vision and partnering with me. It's really special. I tell people all the time, I started 50-ish, but by no means am I an expert in this field,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
It's a journey, like any relationship. I'm exploring. I'm as we spoke before, I'm very visual and I'm a marketer by trade. But as I was approaching the age of 50, I noticed that there was a sort of cultural paradigm shift happening with women in their 50s. And, we see the obvious with like the J-Los and the Holly Berrys of the world. But I saw it in my own network of women. That's when I coined the term, "When Not Your Mama's 50-ish." So women are aging very differently these days. And they're choosing like to not have children or have children later in life. I had my son at 40. So I'm one of those women. They're choosing not to get married or getting married later in life. So I just wanted to explore what that was, and have an open dialogue. Why is it? There's no right or wrong answer.
Right. I
Um,
totally agree.
but whatever the reasoning is, it's definitely having a positive effect on our women. And I just wanted to celebrate that,
Yeah.
especially in our culture, when they don't look at us a certain way anymore, or they perceive us, or they perceive the women in their 50s, or past a certain age, not to be sexy or interesting,
Right.
So yeah, so
And look at
I
you.
want.
You look 12. I just want to say.
No, it's so funny because I have to go around telling people, like, even when I'm like talking to like the youth and I'm trying to like be authoritative and they're looking at me like, little girl, I'm like, no, I'll kick your ass. I am 52. You better listen to me. But yeah, I feel like a child. But thank you. I externally, yeah, but I like all women. Another reason why I wanted to do 50-ish is because, when I was approaching 50s, I I started going through perimenopause and menopause, and and as you know, due to like when you have these hormonal imbalances, I experienced all these health issues like depression and anxiety and all these migraines. I thought I was going to die.
I know. I always joke. The joke is like, is it cancer or is it menopause?
Right, right. I thought I was dying, and I remember going to my doctor, and and I'm telling her this, and I think I was having an anxiety attack as I was telling her, because she held my hand and she looked me in my eyes and she said to me, "You're not dying." And then I said, "No, but I feel like I'm dying." And she says, "We're going to make you come alive again." And that changed my life. So, we started with the right, hormonal treatments for myself. And I'm back, but I'll be honest, I don't think I have ever been that embarrassed before in my life, because I always thought that I had control of everything. And I read up on everything, and I do the research, but for some reason, no one in my circle or on any other women that I knew that were older than me never told me about that.
No one does. I mean, it's why I started it too. I always say I was like 46. I was having all these weird symptoms. I was like, what? No one, what is this? I Googled it. I figured it out. I went to the doctor, but I was like, why have none of my friends told me about this? And also, when you go to the doctor at first, you were lucky. It sounds like you had a good experience, but a lot of doctors like look at you and they're like, do you want antidepressants? Do you want sleeping pills? Like, they don't address, it can take a lot of digging to try and get the right help. Do you mind if I ask? You don't have to answer, but are you on HRT now? Are you on hormones?
I am actually. No, I talk freely about it. I'm open about it, because one part of this whole 50-ish movement is not just like, how we educate like young women to, to work hard, study, to find the right husband and all this other stuff. But we also need to educate not just the young women, but even women in our age brackets, right? That this is what's going on. Because the thing about it is that you want the best quality of life, right? At all parts of your life. Yeah. And if you do not know, then you do not know. But I am on hormones. I'm going to this doctor in Atlanta, and I get the pellets. Mm-hmm. And they, I don't know if you've ever spoken about this, but
are they pellets, the suppository ones, or you take them by mouth?
No, these are actually inserted into your skin.
Oh wow!
And they're the size of the pen, the tip of a pen. And so it's inserted inside of you every 3 to 4 months, depending on your metabolism. Yeah. And the good thing about it is it's supposed to be a lot more natural than everything else on the market, but it only takes from you what your body needs.
Uh-huh. Wow.
So, if you work out and you have a quicker metabolism, you may need it every 3 months, but if you're not as active, you may get it every 4 months. But it is life-changing, and it helps with everything, with your sex drive, with everything.
I'm going to make a note to ask the next time I interview a doctor, which we definitely do periodically, to ask, because it is one of the things that kind of is mysterious to me. Like, I'm on the patch. Okay. So I have like a 0.0025 estradiol patch that I change every 3 days. It's on my like lower belly. And then I take 100 milligrams of progesterone a night. But it's amazing to me how different there are. So many treatments, and different specialists will recommend different things. And so it really is quite confusing, and there's the bioidentical, and then there's the whole judgment about whether to do it or not. I also tried to resist it for a while, because my mom died of breast cancer. And then I had a period of hot flashes last year where I was really not functional. Like I was exhausted. I was waking up all night and blah, blah, blah. So I do feel like the hormones have kind of saved me for now.
Yeah, me too. It's, I think it saved me, but I think it saved everyone around me. They're like, it's so funny, because I can see like my son walking on eggshells. Like, he's like, okay, and I feel so bad. And how do you explain to at the time, 11-year-old, like, I'm going through the change, or I'm going through these changes. He doesn't get it, but I am a much better person now. I mean, I'm living a really, really, really healthy life. Yeah.
That's good. So a couple more questions, because it's just interesting. It's so fun to talk to you. Was it hard having a kid at 40? What was that like? Were you lucky and it happened easily? Did you know you wanted a kid?
What's funny, I never wanted children. Okay. And then at 37, I started looking at children like babies, and something happened. I guess, that maternal instinct, that whatever they talk about, that was happening to me. So I went to see a specialist, and he says, yeah, you look really young on the outside, but look at the color of your ovaries, or, and they were like a darker color. He says, that means that you're aging. Yeah. So you may want to get on it quickly. So I started, and then I had a few miscarriages.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It was really bad. And then I went to I went back to my specialist, and he tried to figure out, what the cause of the miscarriages were. So apparently I had a polyp in my uterus, and so it didn't prevent me from getting pregnant, but it was hard for me to sustain a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So so we had an operation. And then he said, the doctor told me that, with staying from, having sex before the operation, and I didn't listen. So, because we were going to do in vitro, and just, get on the fast track, because as you age, every day counts, right? Because the quality of your eggs lessen as each day goes by. So I said, you know what, I don't want to risk it. Let's just do in vitro. So I had all the paraphernalia in my house to start, injecting myself with the hormones and all that stuff. And then after my surgery, I went to my 3 months checkup and found that I was 12 weeks pregnant. So
oh my God.
I was already pregnant when I was when I had the surgery and didn't know.
That is
so
crazy.
Yeah. So, the story it's kind of crazy, and it was hard in the beginning, but then once he was right. The palate was removed, and I sustained the pregnancy. And I found out 12 weeks later that I was pregnant. And when I went to my specialist, I was just going for a regular checkup. And he says, do you want to know the sex? And I said, what do you mean? So I didn't know that I had a human being inside of me. And I was, drinking. And at the time I was smoking cigarettes, because I knew I was going to have a baby, and I was going to have to change my whole lifestyle. And so I was drinking and smoking and just partying like a rock star, and found out that I had this human being inside of me for 12 weeks. And hence his name is Pharaoh, which is, it's on
Pharaoh,
a periodic
like
table.
Egyptian Pharaoh?
No, Pharaoh as in iron, Fero.
Oh, nice.
Which is, so it's on the periodic table, it means iron.
Yeah.
And so so he lives up to that name.
And how long were you married at the time? Had you been with your guy for a while?
I was married for 8 years. We'll be married 20 years in September.
Wow, you've been married ever before you had kids. That's so cool.
Well, yeah, we were really, we were actually we were together, but we were kind of living separately. I was doing my thing, he was doing his thing, career-wise. And then one day I was like, I want a child. Yeah.
That's great. That sounds like a good relationship.
Yeah.
I did the opposite. I kind of got married. I got pregnant on my honeymoon. I had lots of kids right away, but whatever. There's no right or wrong, as you say, and I agree with you. But the fact is, we never had a good relationship. So I always like to hear about these stories of people who were just married and together and living their lives, and then later.
Oh no, it hasn't been great all along. I've been, and this will be a separate segment.
Okay.
Yeah. There's been a lot of downs.
There's
been a lot of downs. There's been a lot of downs too. But I guess when you see people that have been married for, 40 years, they have stories to tell.
They have stories. They all do.
Yeah. They all have stories.
Say is like, you think, even when you think someone doesn't have a story, they do. You scratch the surface, there's always a story.
I always tell people that the thing about being married for the longest time is neither one of you can fall out of love at the same time.
Right. That would be bad. That's when you're, that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So this is so fun talking to you. I can't wait till we meet in person. I really am excited.
Likewise.
From the second we first spoke, I was like, she's a friend. So before we get off, tell listeners how they can find 50ish, and I don't know if they have interesting stories, how they might submit them, and kind of what you're looking for.
Okay, so that's a good question. I'm looking for all women of all walks of life and abilities. I want the good, the bad, the ugly, and the overall truth. Like I don't want the holly hobbies or the cookie cutter stories. I want authenticity. I want women to feel proud of who they are. I always say, you've earned your badges, your stripes at 50s, in your 50s. I mean, even before that, in your 40s, but at 50s, you really have something to say, right? And so I want those stories. So if you're between the ages of 50 to 59, they can follow on Instagram at 50ish_the movement, or on Facebook at 50ish_the movement. They can also DM me or message me and send me their information.
Great. And you can also find Michelle, obviously, through us. Also, you can also just
on the
Wolfer, and kind of join forces a little and try and keep profiling fabulous women in their 50s and
exactly
doing their thing.
You.
finding their balance. All right, really big kiss to you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much,
Enjoy
Nina.
your vacation.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.